Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I can ask everyone to please take their seats. Are these on? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I can ask everyone to please take their seats, we'd like to get started. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the 172nd annual meeting of the Temple-Tifereth Israel. I'm Michael Freeman. I currently serve as the president of the Board of Trustees. I would like to call this year's annual meeting to order. This year marks our first in-person annual meeting since 2019. In addition to those of you here in the chapel, I'm thrilled that there are many joining us remotely on live stream. Please join me in thanking our co-chairs for this evening's annual meeting, Margie Moskowitz and Ximena Valdez Sessler. You will hear more from Margie and Ximena. You will hear more from Margie and Ximena shortly, both in person and in a pre-recorded video. I would now like to introduce our own Rabbi Yael Dadun, who will share her pre-recorded invocation with us. Or maybe we won't. Bear with me a moment. You get to see how all this stuff gets done behind the scenes. Regis, if you can hear me. You know, you practice and you try and it works and everything's beautiful, and then you fill up a room and a live stream, and sometimes these things happen.
All afternoon it worked, right?
Battery 100%. Connected to DESKTOP UDRIA4.
Scroll that back left. We'll hit play.
Shalom, Temple family. It is so wonderful to be with you on this special occasion. This moment in time reminds me of a story we read about in the book of Numbers, where Balaam, a sorcerer, is called upon to curse the Israelites. And when he comes upon them and sees their beautiful tents encamped, he is inspired and gives godly words and says, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Israel, how good or lovely are your tents, house of Jacob, your sanctuaries, Israel. This last few years have been driven by challenges and opportunities for growth. And when we could have all just felt like we are cursed, we looked for our blessings and created moments of blessing. And tonight is no different. We get to honor very special individuals in our community and remind ourselves that we are the house of Jacob. We are a special community that brings blessings. I look forward to hearing all about tonight and watching it from afar. Shavua Tov.
Perfect. Thank you, Rabbi Dadun. In addition to this evening's program providing us with an opportunity to celebrate last year's accomplishments, including the amazing work of our clergy team, our staff, and our volunteers, the annual meeting serves an important role in the governance function of our beloved congregation. Our first formal task this evening is to elect our new Temple-Tifereth Israel Board of Trustees. Please join me in welcoming Deborah Mayers-Hollander, Chair of the Nominating Committee, to the Bima to present this year's Slate of Nominees.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Mayers-Hollander, and I'm so pleased to be sharing the proposed slate of board members at the Temple's annual meeting tonight. As chair of this year's nominating committee, I'd like to start by thanking the members of this year's committee and acknowledging their work over the past few months in identifying and selecting the next set of Temple leaders. A hearty thank you to Allison Arkin, John Eisenberg, Michael Freeman, Bruce Goodman, Seth Greenfield, Jane Joseph, Margie Newman, Sharon Sobel Jordan, and from the Temple staff, Kim Cole and Dina Rock. Our congregation is blessed with many strengths, one of the foremost being the breadth and depth of leadership talent among our congregants. I am so pleased to put forward this accomplished, dedicated, and thoughtful group of incoming board members. In accordance with our bylaws, these board nominees were identified and selected first by the nominating committee through a series of meetings this winter, approved by the governance committee in April, the executive committee, and the board of trustees in May. I come to you tonight as the final step for a congregational vote. Since we're both in person and live stream tonight, I'd like to share how voting will work through this evening. A majority of votes is needed to pass the proposed slate of nominees tonight. Those that are in person will be voting verbally, and we will be using a text-to-vote system for those that are on live stream. The number you will use will be on a forthcoming slide. Please join me in thanking and recognizing those trustees that are rotating off the board. We are grateful to them for their unique service and leadership. Owen Bauer, Wendy Hennock, Jason Hillman, Jill Miller, Margie Moskowitz, Marcy O'Connell, Michael W. Shames, Egon Singerman, and Scott Wilkoff. The following are elected trustees under Section 4 of the Temple bylaws. They are elected to a 3-year term expiring in 2025. Leslie Cohn, Beth Derry, Deborah Hollander, Sharon Sobel Jordan, Russ Klein, Ben Light, Howard Epstein, Larry Mack, Jennifer Margolis, Kathy Lesser Mansfield, Adam Miller, David Miller, Erica Rivera, Jim Schlonsky, Katie Shames, Elizabeth Stern, Margot Tomer, Ximena Valdez Sessler, and Denny Young. As you can see on each of these slides, the bold indicates that the person is a new or returning nominee. On slide 4, these are presidential appointees who are elected to a 1-year term expiring in 2023. Gerald Goldberg, Megan Rich, Gary Shamus, John Siegel, and Scott Spiro. These affiliate representatives will be serving a 1-year appointed board position to the board. For the Temple Women's Association, Ginny Sukenik, Brotherhood, Jason Hollander, High Lifers, Patty London, Temple Learning Center, Jennifer Margolis, Temple Family Connections, Stephanie Peck, Adult Learning, Fred Livingstone, and for Temple Teens, Jordan Klein. At this time, I'd like to call for a vote. A majority of votes is needed to pass this proposed slate of nominees tonight. For those of you attending the annual meeting virtually, please text Temple Vote to 855-707-2216. You should receive an immediate reply to which you can respond with either yes to approve the slate or no if you do not approve. We will wait and give you 30 seconds to vote before calling for the in-person vote. I promise not to sing or dance. Okay. For those attending in person, if you approve the slate as presented, please respond by saying yes now. Yes. If you do not approve the slate, please respond by saying no now. It is clear from the in-person vote that it is in favor of approving the slate. Jen, can you confirm that the majority of responses that came in online were in support of the approved slate? Yes. Great. I am so pleased to announce that the slate has been approved. Congratulations and welcome to the 2022-2023 Temple Board of Trustees. So you can see we've listed the entire Board of Trustees on the slide behind. And now I'd like to turn the annual meeting over to Rabbi Cohn.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you here, and not on a Friday night. It's nice to see you on another day here at the temple. It's nice to see so many of you here for our annual meeting. I have been asked to engage in an impossible task, the task of trying to summarize the last year in under 7 minutes. So I don't know if you've seen these Shakespeare plays that are all read out in about 5 minutes, but I'm going to try to do the same with our temple, with our temple's activities over the last year. This has been a year of transition and a year of great challenge. For those of you who recall, this last summer, this last year, we started with another spike in COVID-19 infections. And what this has meant was yet again a change in terms of our plans for worship and especially for our High Holy Day services. If you recall, our High Holy Day services were going to be fully in person and ended up not being fully in person. They ended up being in large measure online. But beyond the High Holy Days, with regard to which we have needed to pivot, other holidays did become in-person celebrations and wonderful celebrations. I don't know how many of you recall Hanukkah, Purim, and other great moments. And we altered this year our Friday night services and turned them into 6 o'clock services of various formats, including Kabbalat Shabbat, Nefesh Shabbat, Jazz Shabbat, and special services throughout the year, bringing greater diversity and greater engagement to our worship. In addition, we continued to engage interfaith partners in our services and grew relationships with friends from the Armenian Church in our midst, St. Gregory of Narek, to the Methodist Church here in Cleveland on Lee Road, and the Baptist churches in our area. In addition to all of this, we have returned to in-person life cycle events. And this return to life cycle events meant returning to all of those in-person events that had been postponed, especially Bnei Mitzvahs, with respect to which we have had approximately a double load, especially in the first part of this year because of the postponements due to COVID-19. And we had a historically large consecration class, a double consecration class that we celebrated over Hanukkah, as well as a large combination confirmation class, a confirmation trip to New York, and ceremony earlier this spring. Of course, we also experienced a return of the adult Bnei Mitzvah to our midst. In our learning center, we have had one of the most challenging years that we have had in recent years. We have welcomed a wonderful new director of learning who has entered her position under very difficult circumstances. From online teaching over the last year and a half onto a return to in-person education, a new curriculum, and a set of teachers whom she did not know. The director of learning has led our learning center with grace, with grit, and to success. We have returned to in-learning person from the start of the year, and in spite of all the challenges, and in spite of all the issues we have encountered, we have experienced increasing enrollment throughout the year. We are today by far the largest learning center of any liberal congregation in our area, and we're looking forward to an increased enrollment in the coming year. Along with our Learning Council, again led by our Director of Learning, we have been preparing towards structural change in our Learning Center, especially in our Sunday learning, and setting the stage for additional curricular changes in the months and years to come. With regard to our teens, we have returned yet again to in-person activities and programs and the integration of our teens into larger numbers of services throughout our year and resumed collaborative programming with other congregations. I'm going to leave off some of our comments about the museum because we're going to be talking about the museum a little bit later on. All I will say for the time being is a hearty congratulations to Margie Moskowitz. Margie Moskowitz has just completed a magnificent 3-year term as president, chair of our museum committee, and of course to Sue Koletsky, our museum director, for an amazing year over the last year for our museum. But I will leave it at that. With regard to our library and archive, we're engaged in a reorganization of our library and an expansion of our digital archive, having collected hundreds of artifacts, hundreds of documents and images, recording the experiences, especially of veterans of our congregations. And let me highlight some additional efforts and moments of our congregation. Our congregation throughout this last year has helped raise more than $35,000 for Ukrainian refugees, as well as van loads of material for them. We have delivered a record number of challahs thanks to our Social Action Committee and Membership Committee members to members in need of warmth and in need of support. We have partnered with the Sparks Fly Upward opera, composed by our own Professor Kathy Lesser-Mansfield, which featured Cantor Sibo, as well as a number of members of our temple community. And as recently as the last few days, we have welcomed into our temple high school students from Lake Catholic High School who visited the Moltz Museum and learned here about Judaism, about anti-Semitism, and about inclusion and acceptance, and have partnered with Facing History in Ourselves in teaching area educators about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. We have this year re-welcomed the seniors for an amazing luncheon at the temple recently, following more than a 2-year hiatus. And we have this year launched a bereavement group that connected and supported members of our congregation who had suffered loss, especially throughout the last couple of years, the time of the pandemic. In terms of justice and racial justice, we have continued our focus on voting engagement and advocacy, and increased advocacy among members of our temple on local and statewide issues. We have continued to build relationships with organizations such as the Ridall Green Partnership, Rekindle, and Elizabeth Baptist Church, through MLK Day, through Black History Month, and on to Juneteenth, along with Rabbi Michael Lapidus and Melvin Miles from Atlanta, from Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta just recently. And I have to say, through the generosity of Dr. Dan Sessler and Dr. Ximena Valdez Sessler, we celebrated this year, for the very first time, the inaugural Temple-Tifereth Israel scholar, a scholar who received a scholarship through College Now that will allow her to pursue her dreams in higher education. And I can share with you today, the scholar's name is Alana Johnson Joseph, member of a minority community who will be attending the Ohio State University next year. She is delighted to receive the scholarship on behalf of the temple and to be associated with our temple. In this way, we are touching a life directly. We're touching a young person directly, her family, her future, and the greater community. And this is just the beginning. We look forward to the growth of this fund, and we look forward to the growth of the impact of this fund and to additional scholars who will be receiving support from the Temple-Tifereth Israel. So, what can we look forward to in the coming year? We will be launching the upcoming year with Rabbi Dadoon's installation in August. We will open, as we will hear soon, a very special exhibit, and not only a very special exhibit, but an entire year of exciting programming through our museum. And we will celebrate the 75th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel with a number of programs, and I invite you right now to mark on your calendars the special Silver Scholar Weekend, which will take place on December 2nd and 3rd, which we are organizing in close collaboration with the Silver Family, the Western Reserve Historical Society, the Maltz Museum of Jewish Heritage, and musicians of the Cleveland Orchestra, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, at home and here, mark your calendars. But more than anything else, we wish for ourselves, for members of this temple community, of our temple family, finally a year of greater normalcy, a year of peace, a year wherein our activities are predictable, a year of good health, a year of fulfillment in all that we do for ourselves, for our families, for our close ones, for all members of our community and greater community. May this be God's will. And let us say, Amen.
Now, I also have been tasked with a nearly impossible task. It's not my time constraint, although many of you know I sometimes talk on end. It's actually following Rabbi Cohen. Thank you. 1 year ago, I was elected at this meeting, in fact, by the Board of Trustees to serve as the president of our congregation. It is my honor and privilege to serve the only temple that I have ever been a member of for nearly 53 years. For those of you who don't know me, I'd like to take a moment to get acquainted. As a child, I attended the Temple Religious School. It was during these formative years that I started to learn a little bit about what made the temple run. I spent plenty of time with Mona Sankfor and Alice Licker, former directors of the Temple Religious School, in the office. My bar mitzvah and confirmation occurred during the Rabbi Daniel Silver years. In fact, this was the ark that I opened in a slightly different format at the main temple. I was very active in the Temple Youth Group, having served as treasurer for several years during high school. After college, I taught Hebrew to the once-a-week Hebrew students on Sunday mornings, as well as a bit of tutoring. My wife, Julie, and I were married just across the hall in the main sanctuary by Rabbi Kamen. Our children, Hannah and Jamie, were named by Rabbi Klein. As our kids grew up, we were fortunate enough to be a part of the Shabbaton program brought to us by Rabbi Block. It was at that time also that I joined and got involved in temple leadership. Over the years, I've served as president of the Brotherhood, treasurer of the congregation, and a few other roles. Hannah celebrated her bat mitzvah on top of Masada with our former associate rabbi, Rabbi Geller. Some of you may remember Rabbi Geller. Rabbi Klein officiated over Jamie's bat mitzvah. Needless to say, I am proud to call the Temple-Tifereth Israel my home. And now I have the pleasure of working with our entire clergy team, our amazing staff, and with our dedicated past presidents, board members, and extended group of volunteers. When my term started last year, I was hopeful that I'd have the honor of joining our past presidents, standing on the bima, holding a Torah scroll during Yom Kippur services. Unfortunately, again, as you heard a moment ago, we had to pivot to virtual high holidays. I want to thank Rabbi Cohen, Rabbi Klein, Rabbi Dadoon, and Cantor Sibo for pulling off a truly remarkable high holiday season for us without the ability to pre-record so much of the service, so thank you all. In spite of the pandemic continuing, we have started to reopen, as you heard. Learning Center students are back in person. Gannon Gill has been in person for most of the year, and we've expanded in-person worship, made every effort to return to in-person programming, and we've done this in a really safe way. I'm very proud of the way our congregation has handled the COVID pandemic. You'll hear a little bit more about that from Kim in a moment. Under the leadership of Jen Mendelson, Rabbi Cohen, and Cantor Sibo, we have made substantial audiovisual upgrades to the chapel. As you saw a few moments ago, we're still working on the final phase, which is an improvement to the audio. But that integration should be done very soon. Thank you for all of your patience while we've been trying to get this all worked out. Pivoting to Temple membership, our membership is strong. We've made it through the pandemic, and our membership is strong. My predecessor, Jane Joseph, and the board passed several years ago an initiative to allow our temple to be more affordable for single members. In this past year, I worked with the membership team who did a phenomenal job doing research and helping me pass a new method of dues, if you will, a new dues structure for our young congregant families to make to give us the opportunity to attract and retain and grow our young congregant base in a much more affordable manner. So thank you to the membership committee for that. I would also like to thank all of our affiliate groups. I'll do my best to get them all, but I may miss a few. The Temple Family Connections, Adult Learning, Temple Women's Association, High Lifers, Seniors, Temple Teens, and Brotherhood, to name a few but not all. I also want to thank our museum committee. Again, you'll hear more from them in a moment. The amazing work that these affiliates do, all as volunteers, really helps to give us programming that is unmatched in the community. In addition, we have to honor and say thank you to our ushers. Our ushers have done a remarkable job keeping us safe, keeping us spaced, making sure we all come with our vaccine cards, at least the first time, to show them, so thank you to our ushers. In addition, as Rabbi Cohen mentioned, our Social Action and Racial Justice Task Force have continued to support the needs of and educate both our congregation and the community at large. This past Shabbat's Juneteenth service was inspirational. Thank you. This year, I'm going to pivot for a moment over to the finances. You'll hear a bit about that from Kim as well, but I do want to say that our all-in annual fundraising campaign will be completed within the next week. I'm proud of the hard work during this difficult time of our co-chairs, Michael Shames and David Kornbluth. We have 100% board participation. We've increased our donor base from 349 donors last year up to 398 donors this year, and we're within striking distance of our $400,000 goal, which we hope to hit by next Friday. If you haven't made a gift, or maybe you want to increase your gift, it's not too late. Feel free to call the Temple office and speak to Kim. She'd be happy to talk to you about that. It's also important for me to take a moment to acknowledge our board, our committee members, and all of the Temple volunteers. Thank you for all of you who give your heart and soul to ensure that we remain the premier congregation in Cleveland. Tonight, we elected a group of new trustees. Thank you to all of you who are raising your hand to serve, and congratulations. To our outgoing trustees, thank you. Don't go too far, however. We're going to keep you in our sights, and we're going to call on you for continued help. Before stepping aside, I also want to welcome and thank Kim Cole, who has stepped in and worked diligently in the role of interim executive director, all while trying to manage the role of assistant director. Thank you. Please welcome Kim to the Bema to present the executive director's report.
Good evening. I have to say, when my family moved to Cleveland in 1983 and I sat in Nancy Lieberman's religious school class here at the Temple, I don't know that anyone would have foreseen I'd be standing here this evening as interim executive director. And yet I couldn't be more honored and delighted to be here this evening to be part of continuing the legacy of this historic, impactful, and strong organization. This past year at the Temple has been filled with resilience, transition, adaptability, and amazing community strength. As has always been the case through our history, the amazing members of this congregation, our tremendous clergy and staff, our unfaltering commitment to our Jewish values, and our sense of community have brought us to this evening in summarizing another productive and meaningful year at the Temple-Tifereth Israel. I would be remiss if I didn't begin this report by recognizing and thanking Krista Yonkers, our executive director who left the role at the end of 2021. Christy and I have known each other for more than 2 decades, and her leadership, vision, and professionalism as executive director helped carry the Temple through a senior rabbi transition, a pandemic, in addition to strategic growth and thriving of our beloved congregation. I'm honored to carry forward the work that Christy so skillfully began. Certainly, safety has been at the forefront of our mind at the Temple, as I know it has been for all of you. Both our safety from threats of terrorism and in terms of the pandemic that has lasted more than 2 years. As always, we've been working diligently at the Temple diligently on temple security over the last year. Most visibly, we've installed a new security fence outside the Walled Family Outdoor Chapel and Garden. Not only does this fence further protect our facility and those that gather in the space, but it also provides a barrier for children as they play outside. We continue to employ a group of amazing security professionals, as well as utilize the tremendous resources of the Jewish Federation of Cleveland Security and the Beechwood Police Department. I wish to thank the Jewish Federation for significantly underwriting the security personnel at Gannon Gill, allowing us to provide a guard at all times that the center is open. Jewish Federation provided numerous security trainings to our staff throughout the year, and several staff and lay leaders participated in a special set of security trainings provided by the Israeli Ministry of Diaspora Affairs this past winter. Our security committee, chaired by Egon Singerman, remains our most trusted advisors and thought partners on security issues. We feel so fortunate for Egon's leadership as he steps down from his role and look forward to collaborating with Rob Platt as he becomes the new chair of the Security Committee. As we look to the coming year, we remain committed to continually evaluating, improving, and strengthening the security of our facility and our operations. Of course, this last year has also been significantly impacted by the continued COVID pandemic. Our reopening resource group, faithfully chaired by Howard Epstein, probably didn't know exactly what they were getting themselves into when they signed up to be our advisor a couple years ago. Howard and the entire RRG, along with Operations Director Jen Mendelson, have conscientiously and devotedly worked to ensure that we created protocols that kept us as safe as possible. They fielded so many questions, kept us abreast of continuously changing guidelines from the CDC, and helped us strive to find the balance of being in community and maintaining public health. Their thoughtfulness, insights, and accessibility were key to us as we navigated this challenging year. I also want to thank this congregation for their patience, flexibility, and grace as we made tough and in many ways subjective decisions to protect this sacred congregation. Shifting gears, I'm happy to report that the Temple's financial position and its financial systems are strong. We have capable people and strong oversight for ensuring that the finances of the Temple are properly stewarded. Lou Innenberg, Finance Director, oversees our budget with participation from all department heads. The Finance Committee, chaired by Amy Carfeld, presented a balanced budget with no increase in dues and only a small increase in the security fee to the board last month, which was unanimously approved. This has been a challenging year for Gannon Gill, and yet we continue to provide a 5-star, compassionate early childhood environment for our students. Erica Wilkoff and her dedicated team have skillfully navigated what is probably the most challenging and stressful period in the history of Gannon Gill. In a year impacted by numerous COVID closures, a region-wide teacher shortage, and the departure of Assistant Director Rachel Smiley, our program returned to pre-COVID enrollment of 75 students from 6 weeks to 5 years of age who are thriving every day. I will say that the smiles and giggles of the kids brought much needed joy to the entire staff on many occasions. This year, several new staff members joined our amazing team. We welcomed Joanna Cullinan as our Clergy Suite Coordinator, Cece Dadisman as our Communications Director, Carrie Hinton to our Facilities team, Regina Krieger as our Teen Program Coordinator, Lori Mandel as our Engagement Associate, Dina Rock as our Director of Learning, Jane Rothstein as our Librarian and Archivist, and James Stringer as our AV Technician. We saw the retirement of Suzanne Utley, and Hope Miller transitioned to the Assistant Finance Director role. I would be remiss if I didn't conclude this portion of my remarks with gratitude. I would like to echo the thanks of others to Margie and Ximena for serving as co-chair for this evening. I'm so appreciative of Rabbi Cohn for his partnership, collaboration, and vision. I want to thank Michael Freeman for his leadership, compassion, guidance, and many, many hours of service over the last year, and the entire executive committee who have been thought partners, collaborators, and leaders in amazing ways. I want to extend my most heartfelt and emotional gratitude to the clergy and staff of the Temple for joining me on this crazy journey over the last year. I am honored to work with such capable, supportive, collaborative, funny, kind, devoted people every day. Of course, I'm grateful for this congregation and its members, a community that I joined more than 35 years ago. The generosity of our donors, the kindness of our community, the thoughtfulness of each of you is so appreciated. This year in review has been made possible by so many, and I'm tremendously grateful for each one of you. I will continue on the theme of gratitude as I have the great pleasure of now presenting the Merrill D. Gross Distinguished Service Award to one of my esteemed colleagues. The Merrill D. Gross Distinguished Service Award recognizes and honors a professional staff member based on his or her extraordinary commitment and impact they've made on your congregation. This special award was the brainchild and gift of Merrill Gross of blessed memory, who served as the administrative officer of the temple and 3 terms as a trustee in the 50s and 60s. Merrill understood firsthand how critical and essential professional staff are to operating a large synagogue and wanted to create a legacy as a testament to a special people who ask for so little but we count on for so much. He wanted to see that each year at the annual meeting, one special member of the staff is awarded for their contribution to the temple and the family of staff and congregants. In a year when so many on our staff demonstrated resilience and hard work, only one person carried an entire early childhood center on her shoulders and felt every up and down with her heart and her whole being. It is with great pleasure, tremendous appreciation and respect, and unfaltering gratitude that I would like to present this year's Merrill D. Gross Award to Erica Wilkoff. So Erica, just join me up here while I say a few more words about you. To summarize the nomination from another colleague, Erica has run Gannon Gill through its reopening phase while having to keep up with every changing COVID protocol. She has handled school and individual classroom closings with professionalism and grace. Erica was constantly reworking the teachers' schedules and coverage on a daily basis as staff were impacted by the pandemic as well. Even more incredibly, she did it for half the year without an assistant director to support her and share the workload. Erica has gone above and beyond the call of duty. She and the Gannon Gill staff deserve 3 cheers, and any recognition we can give her came from the nomination. Now, some of you may recall that Erica has already received this award. We did not make this decision to honor her again lightly, but we also knew that Erica's work over the last year urged her a repeat. Erica's dedication to Gannon Gill, its children and families, and the temple go to the core of who she is. She is hardworking, creative, compassionate, resourceful, and kind. She supports and advocates for her students, families, and team every day. She brings treats for the staff on hard days. She compassionately speaks with parents about their questions and concerns. She jumps in whenever is needed, which has been a lot this year, and does whatever it takes to ensure that her kiddos and staff are taken care of. Now, let me be clear, I'm really looking forward to the day that Erica will once again be joined by an assistant director to lessen the workload, but I know that will only lessen the hours and not the caring or involvement. Her commitment is tremendous. Erica, on behalf of the congregation and the entire Gannon Gill community, I couldn't be more pleased to have the privilege of presenting this well-deserved honor to you today. Congratulations. So just stay here. You can sit back down if you want, because you're up next. So I'll invite Erica to remain at the podium and invite Dina Rock, Director of Learning, to join her as she kind of takes a deep breath. Dina's going to go first to present our Teachers of the Year Award and several other awards. Thank you very much.
Our first award is, hi, first of all. Our first award is the Lindsay Stark and Cassidy Stark in Pink Social Action Award. And before I tell you about the person that deserves this, I'd like to invite Carol Hockman up to talk a little bit about the award itself.
I'm honored to be here tonight to recognize a worthy student, but also to sustain and perpetuate the memory of my nieces, Lindsay Stark and Cassidy Stark in Pink. This award was created to memorialize these 2 sisters who died 23 years apart, long before their time. Lindsay succumbed to cystic fibrosis a few days before her 18th birthday in 1998. She was a spirited and indomitable force. Never a quiet bystander, Lindsay was committed to speaking up for what was right. She always stood by the underdog, never worrying about what the popular choice would be or what anyone else would think of her. Lindsay stood for everything that was fair, right, and just. Her little sister, Cassidy Stark Impink, was a devoted wife and loving mother of 3 young children. Cassidy also tried to improve the lives of those around her. This trait carried through to her career as a hospital child life specialist as she tried to make things better for young patients and their families. She loved to bring people together and was always doing everything she could to ensure that everyone around her was happy and involved. Last year, Cassidy lost a courageous battle with breast cancer at the age of 37. Helping others motivated Cassie and Lindsay's short lives. Both girls loved life. They would consistently, in their own way, strive to make things better for the people around them. This Social Action Fund is a fitting memorial to Lindsay and Cass. It is our family's hope that memorializing their positivity, energy, and sense of justice will be a beacon to others as we strive to improve lives, solve problems, and serve our communities. As part of the fund's mission, each year a scholarship award of $500 is given to a Temple student who most exemplifies the actions and ideals that meant so much to both Cassidy and Lindsay.
So this year, we are honored to give the award to a young man, Luka Sekievich, who has embodied the spirit of Lindsay through his time here at the Temple. Luka has been a leader among our teens in the Madrechim program since 7th grade and has engaged our learners with his fun and energetic personality. Luka was also committed to his Jewish life journey and was an active participant in our high learning program. Outside our Temple walls, Luka has been an integral part of the Cleveland Ballet Company, where he uses his talents to bring joy to all who come to see his performances. Along with all these accomplishments, Luka was a National Merit finalist this year. It is with great honor that we are able to give this award to Luka. He could not be here as he is away on a special trip to Germany, but we're honored that his parents, Naomi and Andrew, are here to accept this award on his behalf. Mazel tov to you, Naomi and Andrew, for raising such a wonderful young man. Our next award is the Esther Saginaw Teacher of the Year Award. I'm honored to present the Esther Saginaw Teacher of the Year Award to Laura Robbins. Laura is a born teacher who understands the importance of relevance and connection as she creates curriculum to use with her learners. Only a few short years ago, Laura herself was a student in our Learning Center. Laura worked as a speech-language pathologist in the Shaker Heights City School District, making a huge difference to every kid she works with. Laura has taught at our Learning Center and been a caring and devoted educator for the last 6 years, and we are truly lucky to have her as our 4th grade Jewish studies teacher. Laura has created a curriculum that focuses on being an upstander and not a bystander. Using a Jewish lens, Laura uses icons in our history to begin the discussion of who has been influential and how the values they have are relevant today. Laura integrates the congregants from our temple into the curriculum by bringing them into the Learning Center and having meaningful conversations about what they do and why they do it. Students heard from representatives from Meals on Wheels, NCJW, and many others throughout the year. Laura understands the importance of not just showing, but doing, and has her learners create an upstander project every year, giving them the confidence and support to be an upstander in a small or big way in their community. As our learners continue their Jewish life journey here at the Temple, they will take the lessons and values that Laura has taught them and use them throughout their lives. She's shaping young leaders, and I couldn't be prouder to present this award to her today.
Maura Adrian knows how to lead a class. When I see the toddler 2 class in the hallway, they are always in a single file line behind Adrian going on a bear hunt. The children that leave that class are well prepared to enter preschool. I could spend all day talking about how wonderful Maura Adrian is, but you don't want to hear that. So instead, I asked the children and parents to tell me more about Maura Adrian. This is what the children said. Maura Adrian is nice. She makes us happy. We like it when she sings songs and plays dinosaurs with us. We like her hugs and being in her class. A parent expressed her extreme gratitude for Adrian's impact on her daughter's growth and development while in her class. Maura Adrian is an integral part of the Gannigill family, and I am honored to be presenting her with the Teacher of the Year Award for 2022.
Thank you, Erica and Dina. Congratulations to all of the recipients, Laura, Luca, Adrian, and of course, Erica. It is now my honor to be able to present the Volunteer of the Year Award. While we are blessed to have a tremendous team of professionals who keep the temple running on a day-to-day basis, without our dedicated lay leaders and volunteers supporting our staff, we would be unable to function at such a high level. Each year, we honor one volunteer with the Volunteer of the Year Award. I would like to introduce our Director of Operations, Jen Mendelson, to join me in presenting this year's award to my friend and outgoing Security Chair, Egon Singerman. Before I turn over the microphone to Jen, I reached out to our former Director of Operations, who was the Director of Operations at the time we formed the Security Committee, when Egon just started, Chris Fox, who had these words to say about Egon. So this is in Chris's voice, but I don't do impressions. There's an old expression, Johnny on the spot. The definition is a person who is at hand whenever needed. It is a praise for someone who is resourceful, dedicated with great effectiveness. Egon has been just that for the temple. I could add words like multifaceted, a true human being, a believer that if you were going to volunteer in the capacity he has, you bring it all to the table. To me, through the years of working with Egon, helping us through so many different issues, we cannot leave out the words sense of humor. No matter what the problem was, Egon knew just what to say to distract us enough to diffuse the situation so that we could more rationally solve the problem. Thank you, Egon, for the years you have already given to the temple and its staff, and thank you for being so supportive. This was in all caps. It's such an honor to have worked with you and to have you as a friend. And did I say funny? He is that.
It's hard to follow the wise words of Chris Fox. I cannot think of anyone more deserving of this award than Egon Singerman. My first official meeting 3 years ago at the temple was with Chris and Egon. We had many meetings in those first 6 months. I knew from the beginning that he was serious, thoughtful, genuine, and hardworking. He truly cares about this building, this congregation, this community. I am so impressed with the work that he and Chris completed over the years. TTTI is a model in this community, thanks in large part to Egon Singerman. We have received over $500,000 grant dollars during Egon's tenure. Every security feature in this 75,000 square foot building has Egon's personal touch on it. Chris officially retired, as most of you know, in February 2020, and then we all know what came next in March of 2020. For the next 2+ years, Egon did not miss a beat. Security of our then closed building was always his top priority. We maintain virtual meetings, local, regional, and national trainings, webinars, presentations, everything that we can be involved with, we were. The Temple continues to be a leader in the Cleveland Jewish community. Egon, thank you for your hard work and dedication to the Temple-Tifereth Israel. Thank you for your many years as Security Committee Chair and your role in the Executive Committee of the Board of Trustees. And always, thank you for your support, guidance, and kindness. You are the perfect balance of keeping us safe while also keeping us calm. You will be missed by all of us, but please don't block my number because you taught me well and I know where to find you. As many as you know, as Kim mentioned, Egon is turning over the reins to Rob Platt as of July 1st, and I'm thrilled to be working with Rob, who's here tonight. I know he'll be a great partner for years to come. As I was told when Chris retired, you have very, very big shoes to fill. Egon, once again, congratulations. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work for you. I often think about what life would have looked like without COVID. Enjoy Temple retirement life, but don't go far. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jen, and Mazel Tov Egon, on this well-deserved honor. Several months ago, Rabbi Cohn and I started the conversation about tonight's meeting. This is my first annual meeting as Temple President and our first meeting back together in person. How could we come up with a theme and co-chairs worthy of this honor? Well, it was quite simple. Throughout the pandemic, the Temple Museum Committee has continued to function at the highest level. When I mentioned this to Rabbi Cohn, he enthusiastically agreed. Rather than tell you any more, because you've heard plenty of me, I'd rather you hear about our amazing museum directly from our co-chairs, outgoing museum chair Margie Moskovitz, incoming museum chair Ximena Valdez Sessler, as well as the director of Temple Museums, Sue Koletsky. Unfortunately, Margie is out of town this evening, so we will hear from her, hopefully hear from her on our first attempt in a pre-recorded video, followed by Sue and Ximena.
Battery 100%. Connected to DESKTOP UDRIA4.
In case you need the model number.
Good evening and shalom to you, my Temple congregational family. I wish I could be with you tonight, but tomorrow my grandson will have his high school graduation in Brooklyn. I'm pleased to co-chair the annual meeting with my friend Ximena Valdez Sessler. How wonderful that tonight's meeting is able to be in person. On behalf of the Temple Museum Committee and the director, Sue Koletsky, we are thrilled that the annual meeting is highlighting our Temple Museum of Jewish Art, Religion, and Culture, and the recent exciting acquisitions to our collection. I have had the honor and privilege to chair the Temple Museum Committee for the past 5 years. And I hope you'll indulge me with just a few special recollections. When the Temple Museum addition and renovation was completed, the museum now had 4+ exhibition spaces, including, of course, the Maltz Museum, whose gallery has art objects, ritual objects, and fine arts from our Temple Museum on view. The Chapel Corridor Gallery is dedicated to the creativity of Temple members. It was a joy to inaugurate it with the exhibition of the art of Elizabeth Stern and Heather Ross Lowenstein. Since then, we've had 8 more exhibitions, and it's been a real pleasure to see congregants enjoy these exhibitions before and after temple services. I was delighted to curate the exhibition, Our Sephardic Journey, from our congregational trip to Spain and Portugal, with vibrant photographs taken by participants on that trip. We have had 2 rotations of congregants' Vote and exhibitions for temple artists, including Bonnie Dolan and, as you can see, Daniel Levin's stirring photographs from his exhibition, Violins and Hope, From the Holocaust to Symphony Hall. A personal favorite in the Hartzmark Center Gallery was Tel Aviv shoe artist Kobe Levy's fun exhibition, Step into Art. The fashion show was enjoyed by our congregation, and his shoes were modeled by temple members. Another highlight was our wedding show, My Beloved Is Mine, where we were able to share our rare Ketubot collection from towns in Iran and Afghanistan where there are no longer Jewish communities. The opening reception for that was spirited and fun. We had wedding cake, we had live music, and we even had young congregants dancing Ahora to help us celebrate. The Temple Museum has also sponsored monthly art talks on Monday afternoons, which have included sometimes looking at our rare Haggadot, dreidels, menorahs, and Chanukiah. And also sometimes artists have spoken about their exhibitions on view. We were able really to continue this during COVID with virtual art talks. And we recently had a virtual art talk from the Jewish Museum about their exhibition, The Hair with the Amber Eye. Finally, I am filled with gratitude to the Temple Museum Committee, very devoted, terrific committee of 26 members who have played an important role in helping to plan our exhibitions and our programs, along with researching objects in the collection and advising as well on acquisitions. I want to give special mention to Dr. Arthur Newman, who has for many years, maybe even decades, and continues to oversee our complete Israeli stamp collection with great care and passion. I also want to thank Stanley Morgenstern, who first got me interested in the Temple Museum, and who I think knows more about our temple than anyone. Stanley continues to be an inspiration. Working very closely with our dynamic museum director, Sue Koletsky, has been a rich and fulfilling experience for me. I marvel at Sue's ingenuity and problem solving, her ability to make things happen, whether it is the designing the exhibition spaces, in the renovation, curating exciting exhibits with great ideas on programming for that, and having wonderful contacts that have actually led to great acquisitions for our collection. Overall, I really admire Sue's affirmative and exuberant way of relating to people, especially volunteers. Rabbi Cohn's passion for our museum has inspired us and deepened our understanding of the collection. I fondly remember the time he spent translating Ketubot for our committee and giving us a rich context to the tradition of Jewish marriage. I'm very pleased that my dear friend, Ximena Valdez Sessler, has been appointed to chair the Temple Museum Committee going forward. With her passion for art and her devotion to our congregation and the Temple Museum, combined with her wise judgment that I have observed many times, and her discerning eye for art, I know the museum will be in great hands. I have had a wealth of experiences with the Temple Museum and the Museum Committee, and I've been honored to serve on the Temple Board in that capacity. I quote from the words of the psalmist, "My cup runneth over." Thank you.
Margie, I want to thank you on behalf of the Museum Committee, the Temple-Tifereth Israel, and certainly on my behalf. And thank you for your leadership for these 5 years. It's been wonderful working together. You have such amazing enthusiasm for the Museum Committee and led us for years of growth with programming, exhibitions, acquisitions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Peonies and roses. Thank you.
Now I welcome Sue Koletsky.
I'm wearing different clothes. It was fantastic to have Margie be the museum chairperson for 5 years. Her leadership and sensitivity to the museum's needs and goals have kept the museum committee enthusiastic and engaged, making wise acquisitions and planning exhibitions that have enlightened our congregation and community by featuring our museum collection and bringing in contemporary Jewish artists. I also want to thank Rabbi Jonathan Cohn for his leadership and total excitement and support for the museum. Tonight, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share with you the exciting year we've had at the Temple Museum of Jewish Art, Religion, and Culture. This year is one of many exciting years, but if you happen to have missed it, we just acquired a once-in-a-lifetime gift this year, the Andy Warhol 10 Jews of the 20th Century print portfolio. Now, if you didn't hear that, I'm going to say it again. We got the Andy Warhol 10 Jews of the 20th Century print portfolio. So how did this happen? I mean, we've gotten such great and amazing donations this year that I'm going to tell you about. So before I tell you why our donors feel that our museum is the place for these outstanding pieces, let me share you some museum history. The Temple Museum was founded in 1950 by Rabbi Abba Hillel Silver to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Temple-Tifereth Israel. At the beginning of our 72-year history, the museum was housed at the Temple in University Circle in a beautifully designed space by Rorimer Brooks. It was one of the first museums of Judaica in North America and one of a very few synagogue museums with an outstanding collection. Over the years, the museum has collected both Jewish ritual objects and fine art by Jewish artists. The collection now numbers over 2,250 items. Some of the earliest pieces in the collection that set this very high standard of commissions and acquisitions include let's see if I can do this. Did it get there? Nope. The Arthur Szyk stained glass memorial windows. Before the founding of the museum in 1947, Rabbi Abba Hillel Silver commissioned the renowned artist Arthur Szyk to create stained glass windows that are memorial windows to honor the soldiers who served in World War II and who gave the ultimate sacrifice. These are the only stained glass windows that Szyk ever created, and we are so honored that they are part of our collection. Originally, the windows were at the chapel at University Circle, but now they surround us during prayer in the Milton and Tamar Maltz Chapel, right here. In 1950, the Temple Museum was acquiring important Jewish art and lost culture. Because of Rabbi Abba Hillel Silver, the museum was one of a very few institutions to receive 70 pieces of heirless Judaica from the Jewish Cultural Reconstruction. That is an organization established by the Conference on Jewish Relations in April 1947 to collect and distribute heirless Jewish property in the American-occupied zone of Germany after World War II. In 1954, the museum exhibited paintings by 19th century Austro-Hungarian painter Isidor Kaufmann, who traveled throughout Europe to capture traditional Jewish life in small towns and villages. This beautiful portrait of a bar mitzvah boy was a gift of the Hilda Marion Stone Memorial Fund and is on view at the Maltz Museum. And in 1955, Miracle 2 was purchased from Jewish artist Jacques Lipschitz. Writing from Hastings-on-Hudson in New York in 1955, Lipschitz writes to Abba Hillel Silver and says, "It is for the first time in my career of 45 years of professional sculpturing that people of my faith have been interested enough in my work as a Jew to want to have it for a Jewish institution. I can't tell you how dear this is to my heart." And we have this letter in our archives at the Western Reserve Historical Society and a Xerox copy here. In 1966, Marc Chagall created The Story of Exodus, a 24-piece lithographic portfolio. The museum was gifted edition 188/250 by Rhonda Goldberg Meldon, and 4 pieces are on view also at the Maltz Museum in our gallery. Currently, the collection is exhibited in several beautiful galleries. In 2005, the Temple-Tifereth Israel Gallery at the Maltz Museum of Jewish Heritage opened its doors thanks to the visionary thinking and leadership of Temple members Tamar and Milton Maltz. I had the honor of designing the state-of-the-art gallery with the international award-winning museum firm Gallagher and Associates. There are 186 objects from our collection telling the Jewish story of sacred texts, sacred spaces, and sacred time. When you walk down the chapel corridor gallery, you will see the first part of the stunning exhibition of Violins in Hope, From the Holocaust to Symphony Hall, by acclaimed photographer and Temple member Daniel Levin. The exhibit continues in the Hartzmark Center of Jewish Art, Religion, and Culture in memory of Deborah Hartzmark Jacobs that was opened in 2016. We were thrilled to host the National Book Launch at our opening and had numerous programs, including an art salon, art talks, and educational experiences for our entire learning center. The Temple Museum was the first exhibit venue for this traveling exhibition, which will next be going to New York City. And I want to also congratulate Daniel, who's in our audience tonight, for this beautiful exhibition, and also for winning the gold medal. He's a gold winner, or the book is a gold medal winner of the Independent Publishers Book Award, and in the category of large format books, the history large format books. And this is like winning the Academy Award for books. So we are so happy for you, and we are so thrilled to be able to have this exhibit here for the congregation and for the community to see. Thank you. The upper Hartzmark is dedicated to exhibiting the Holocaust wall hangings by Boston artist Judith Weinshaw Lieberman. In 2002, Lieberman donated her entire collection of 45 textile Holocaust wall hangings and 10 biblical wall hangings to the Temple Museum. She specifically donated these to the Temple because she knew that they would be exhibited here and internationally. She stated, "It is my hope that my dream of having these artworks preserved and used permanently for human rights education will be realized." The exhibition camps and bearing witness were part of the Kala program this year during Yom HaShoah, and they were also featured today in a Facing History and Ourselves workshop, Democracy at Risk, Holocaust and Human Behavior, and that was held here today. This year, the collection has grown substantially with 7 new amazing acquisitions, and I'm going to share them with you now. We are so grateful for these pieces to be coming into our collection to be able to share with you. The first one here is an exceptional Moshe Kuferman work on paper. It's a beautiful example of this highly acclaimed artist from Israel. It's a gift from Trudy and Stephen Wiesenberger in honor of Rabbis Abba Hillel Silver, Daniel Jeremy Silver, Richard A. Block, Roger C. Klein, and Jonathan Cohen. It is on display right outside in the chapel lobby, so please make sure that you see it tonight. The DNA of Language by Nancy Schwartz-Katz, who is a Cleveland artist who specializes in using Hebrew calligraphy in her art. And this is a gift of Carol and Bart Bookatz, and also a gift of Audrey and Kenny Koblenz in memory of Sheila Fox. And this is on exhibition in our chapel commons. And again, we're having our reception in the commons, so please make sure you take a look at that piece as well. Other internationally acclaimed contemporary artists now in our collection include Italian artist Tobia Rava. His painting, L'Alberto Cingento, was given anonymously in honor of Margie and Dr. Arthur Newman for their dedication to the Temple-Tifereth, Israel. A figurative painting by celebrated Israeli artist Ruth Schloss is a gift of Dr. Robert and Linda Katz in memory of Florence and David Moritz. An Israeli artist, David Moss's paper cut, El Na, which is Praying and Healing, was a gift of Fred Weiss. This beautiful Torah Yad from Istanbul is a gift from Ellen Reisman in memory of Arnie Reisman. And our latest acquisition this year is the 10 Portraits of Jews of the 20th Century by Andy Warhol. There are 10 individual portraits, 40 inches by 32 inches. They're silk screened on paper. We have the printer's proof 3/5. They were created by Warhol in 1980 in New York City. The 10 portraits include Louis Brandeis, the Marx Brothers, Gertrude Stein, George Gershwin, Sarah Bernhardt, and additionally Martin Buber, Albert Einstein, Golda Meir, Sigmund Freud, and Franz Kafka, but I have to save some surprises for next year when we have the exhibition. The portraits of the 10 prints was a gift from Joel Saltzman. Let me go back to this. The portfolio of the 10 prints was a gift from Joel L. Saltzman and a gift in memory of Leslie Wolfe by his family. The donors, Joel L. Saltzman and the family of Leslie Wolfe, both wanted the portfolio to be in the public eye, housed in the permanent collection of a Jewish museum, where the art would be used for the benefit of the community through exhibitions and education. Both donors have deep Cleveland roots and wanted this important portfolio to be here for Clevelanders and the many others who would travel here just to see these amazing works. Warhol was a pop artist who created thousands of images. He created hundreds of portraits. The funds from these commissions were used to create films, his magazines, and many other projects. The idea to create the 10 Jews, or as he sometimes referred to them as the 10 Jewish geniuses, was from his gallerist at the time, who was Ronald Feldman. With a background in commercial art, Warhol was always asking people for ideas. So he asked Feldman for an idea. At first, Feldman suggested a series of presidents, which did not interest Warhol at all. Then Feldman suggested 10 portraits of Jews of the 20th century. This idea did excite Warhol. The two collaborated on this project with Rupert Smith, who was their printer. The portfolio was first exhibited in 1980 at the Jewish Community Center of Greater Washington and at the Lowe Art Museum in Miami, and then at the Jewish Museum in New York. In 2008, the exhibition Warhol's Jews 10 Portraits Revisited was held at both the Jewish Museum in New York and the Contemporary Jewish Museum in San Francisco. So, to wrap it up, now you know how and why this year the Temple Museum of Jewish Art, Religion, and Culture received these very important 7 pieces of art into our collection. And I say our collection because this collection belongs to all of us. This is the collection of the Temple-Tifereth, Israel. As our vision statement reads, our museum will inspire understanding and appreciation of Jewish life, art, and culture, connecting the past, present, and future of our Jewish experience. I am very grateful to our generous donors, to our museum funders, and to our Temple Museum Committee, our Temple staff, and to our congregation for supporting the Temple Museum. The museum exhibit, Andy Warhol's Jewish Icons 10 Portraits, will open September 17th of this year. Get ready to be involved, and as Andy Warhol would say, our 15 minutes of fame. And now I want to say that it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Ximena Valdez Sessler, our next museum chairperson. Ximena is a retired physician who is really a Renaissance woman. She's a docent at the Cleveland Museum of Art, a program co-chair of the Print Club, involved with the Cleveland Orchestra on the racial justice task force here at the Temple, and a volunteer at Thomas Jefferson School, and an avid bicyclist, a traveler of the world, and she will bring her amazing, amazing talents to the Temple Museum. Welcome, Ximena. So glad you're doing this. I'm going to go this way.
Thank you, Sue, for that gracious introduction. And thank you also, Margie Moskowitz, for your kind words. You are a challenging act to follow as a Temple Museum committee chair. It is such a happy moment to witness the highlighting of the Temple Museum of Jewish Art, Religion, and Culture at the annual Temple meeting. It warms my heart and the heart of all Temple Museum committee members. I hope you'll enjoy this beautiful card that was accompanying your program that shows images of the Temple Museum collection works. We have to thank the Temple Women's Association for contributing these cards for our program today. We anticipate exciting art-related programs going forward. following the grand opening of the exhibition Andy Warhol Jewish Icons 10 Portraits, through monthly led programs after September 17th, led by our own temple clergy, local professionals, as well as some out-of-town speakers. We will highlight individually each one of these historic figures that were portrayed in the Warhol's series. And we can look forward to very exciting programs. But before that, in July, the chapel corridor will feature an exhibition by Nancy Schwartz, Cats. Yes, the same Nancy Schwartz Cats that you just heard about, the one that created that beautiful sculpture that sits in the Commons, the one with the iridescent Hebrew letters. Her new exhibition will be titled The Meaning Within the Letters, a Framework for Connection. And Nancy will personally introduce her exhibition to us on July 28th at an opening. The subsequent rotation in the chapel corridor will feature oil paintings by Laura Roebuck. Laura, this will happen in late October. She is a retired psychiatrist, an accomplished artist, now living in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her work is titled A Series of Discoveries, and her creative process is inspired by her experiences, personal and professional. She is an abstract expressionist artist, and her work is just exquisite. You will love it. It's beautiful. In November, the Judith Weinshaw Lieberman's Holocaust wall hangings will be rotated again, and we will then feature her 7th and last rotation. This one is called A Personal View, and it will be, as all the others have been, in the Upper Hartsmark room. Just as all the ones we've already seen, her work is deeply meaningful and moving, and we look forward to that. And I look forward to becoming your next Temple Museum Committee chair, together with our talented Temple Museum Director, Sue Koletsky, and our dedicated Temple Museum Committee members. We will work with Rabbi Cohen and the other Temple clergy, all strong supporters of the work of the Temple Museum. Collaboratively, we anticipate offering you engaging and stimulating art programs that for everybody to enjoy, young and old. Finally, let me remind you that in the reception that will follow after this meeting closes, during that period of time, the exhibition spaces will be open for you to visit again Dan Levin's fantastic photography exhibition, as well as the presently in display artwork by Judith Weinshaw Lieberman, the one titled Bearing Witness. And now I invite Cantor Sibo and Rabbi Klein to offer the closing song and benediction.
Rabbi, you want to do the closing song instead? I got to be able to see the music. Oh, that is. Regis, a favor, can you hit the spotlights off? Sorry. Oh, much better. Okay. Friends, it's an honor. Thank you for inviting me to share a little music on this lovely and very important evening. And instead of singing something that has more of a statement, I chose something that is actually more of a question. The music is by a woman by the name of Isabel Gans, and the text is from Pirkei Avot, chapter 1, verse 14. Im ein ani li mili, words of the great Hillel, if I am not for myself. If I am not for myself, then who will be for me? But if I am only for myself, what am I? What am I? And if not now, when? If not now, when? Im ein ani li mili, וכשאני לעצמי מה אני? אם אין אני לי מילי, וכשאני לעצמי מה אני? מה אני? If I am not for myself, then who will be for me? But if I am only for myself, what am I? ואם לא עכשיו, אם לא עכשיו, אין מתי, אין מתי, אם לא עכשיו, אם אין אני לי מילי, וכשאני לעצמי ימני, אם אין אני לי מילי, וכשאני לעצמי מה אני, מה אני? If I am not for myself, then who will be for me? But if I am only for myself, what am I? If I am not for myself, then who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? What am I? What am I?
Will you please rise for the concluding benediction? Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, our God, God of our ancestors and our descendants, God of this day. As we conclude this 172nd annual meeting and return to our homes, to our work, to our world, we ask that you bestow your choicest blessings upon this gathering and upon this holy congregation. Enliven our leaders with wisdom, with courage, with optimism, with resolve. When obstacles cloud our vision and when limitations dim our understanding, help us to see clearly and to act with purpose and compassion. Let us sense with awe that we are the inheritors of a congregational legacy that began nearly 175 years ago. A congregational family that has kept alive the wisdom and the ethical commitments of our tradition. Help us to see our own responsibilities in our own time, to ensure that this, our congregational legacy, that is now in our hands will continue to inspire us and others far into the future. And may this be your will and our will. Amen. You may be seated.
Thank you to Cantor Sibo and Rabbi Klein. Thank you to Margie and Ximena. Margie, wherever you may be, Ximena right here, and Sue for your amazing presentation and the truly remarkable work of the museum committee, always, but certainly in the past year. I made a promise to my wife that I would get us all out of this room while it's still daylight. What she might not have paid attention to is that today's the longest day of the year, so I will uphold my word. In a moment, I will invite the most of you to please proceed out to the Commons and the exhibit areas for a dessert reception sponsored by our co-chairs, Margie and Ximena. In addition, I believe we have some of the museum committee here to help show you around our various exhibition spaces. Thank you again both for chairing this year's meeting and your generosity of both your time and by providing the dessert reception. I would like to now request that all 22-23 board members remain with me in the chapel for just a few more minutes for a quick but very important first board meeting of the next fiscal year. This will begin in about 5 minutes, so those of you who are online, please stick with us. Those of you that are here, please stick in the room. Those who are not on the board, please enjoy the reception. This concludes our annual meeting.
May I respectfully request, if you are not on the board, that you join the reception so that the board can have our board meeting? Or you're going to be voted onto the board. Most everyone in here is a board member. But not
It doesn't matter.
okay.
Yeah. Fellow board members, if I can have your attention, please, for just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one very important piece of business. It will take us hopefully just a minute. So I'm calling to order this very quick, short board meeting in which we have the very important task of now, as a new board, electing the executive committee for the upcoming fiscal year. You see it on the screen, those of you online. We have nominated the officers, President Michael Freeman, Vice President Benjamin Light, Treasurer Amy Carfeld, Secretary Jen Margolis. Executive committee members also, immediate past President Jane Joseph, nominated past President Bruce Goodman, Governance Committee Chair Sharon Sobel Jordan, Facilities Committee Chair Russ Klein, Finance Committee Chair, again, Amy Carfeld, Program Committee Chair Elizabeth Stern, Membership Committee Chair Beth Derry, Security Committee Rob Platt, Development Committee David Kornbluth, and our at-large Executive Committee members Howard Epstein and Seth Greenfield. As Deborah mentioned earlier, those in bold are new to our Executive Committee. Again, we're going to have the same protocols as we did for the main vote earlier. For those of you who are on live stream, the number is the same. Just text the words VOTE to 855-707-2216. If you voted earlier, you already should have that in your phone. We'll give you all just a moment to enter your votes, yes for yes, no for no, and then we'll take a verbal vote here in just a moment. Again, I'm not. Thanks, Jane. I appreciate it. Okay, all those in the room in favor of the Executive Committee slate as proposed, above, please indicate by saying yes. Yes. Any opposed? Based on those in the room, it appears that we have a majority. Jen, what do we have from those online? Yes. Awesome. Congratulations. Mazel tov to the new Executive Committee. Thank you to all of you for being here and doing all the hard work that you do. Without us, without our amazing staff, clergy, etc., the temple wouldn't be what it is. And this is really, truly a special place, certainly to me, and I know it is to you all as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have raised your hand and said yes when asked. Thank you again. This concludes the first board meeting of the year. Thank you.